Well, as you saw, that last image there was of China's One Belt, One Road initiative. It was first proposed by President Xi Jinping back in 2013. The economic network would stretch from China into Central Asia and also reach into Africa, Europe, and Russia. It's a trade and infrastructure network that includes the Silk Road economic belt and the 21st century maritime Silk Road. The goal? Equality and mutual benefit. Earlier, I spoke to Anil Gupta about the initiatives and its potential. He's from the Smith School of Business at the University of Maryland.
I see this as actually a win-win-win, meaning that it's a win for China, it's a win for the partner countries, and it's actually a win for the global economy, because fundamentally, I'm a deep believer in reducing friction, whether it is policy frictions or infrastructure frictions in terms of global trade and investment, and I think that's very good. But at the same time, the origins of it are very deeply economic, because if we think about One Belt, One Road happening, it's really actually about infrastructure. And so which means that somebody has to manage the infrastructures, somebody has to provide the raw material, for example, steel, for that infrastructure, and somebody has to provide the money. And so it's the Chinese banks that provide the money, Chinese infrastructure companies manage the projects, and of course China has massive overcapacity in the things like steel. I don't think that countries are going to be all that against Chinese finance. But the question really would be that ultimately, who owns the infrastructure? For example, a highway gets built through one of these Central Asian countries. Who exactly is going to own it? And it's not going to be China. The total amount of money that I can think of that China is likely to put forward in each of the next 5 years, and I'm not talking about 20-year commitments, I'm talking about annual commitments. Each of the next 5 years, I see sort of in the range of maybe $10 billion a year, max $20 billion a year. What does that mean? Is that inside China, domestically, investment in infrastructure and manufacturing is about $5 trillion a year. So 10 billion to 20 billion a year is actually rounding error.
I got to ask you about Russia. Obviously, is going to play a factor here. Do you see Russian resistance in some capacity? The Russians consider much of this region as part of their backyard.
Sure, right. So, and actually, so Russia would be an issue, but actually, more than Russia, because, if we just look at all the various stans.
Eurasia countries, yes.
Exactly, Eurasian countries. And so no country, no matter how big or small, is likely to be that comfortable with giving up sort of autonomy, political autonomy. And so now it comes down to a lot of the stans, the Central Asian countries, that, they are commodity rich. But these are not good times for commodity rich countries. And of course, they have soaring unemployment. They have excess capacity in steel. So they would want to say, hey, we want our workers, we want our companies, we want our steel, and then rather than Chinese. So this whole question about really, and plus the geopolitical entanglements, it's really a little bit like, biting what you can, chewing what you can, one step at a time.
Part of my conversation with Anil Gupta from the University of Maryland.